Man, I haven't laughed like that in a while. That was tremendous. That was tremendous. Boy, boy, do we need that from time to time.
Woo! Laughter
Um,
is the best medicine, Tom, let
yeah.
me tell you.
Yep. That's sometimes you just get those memes that just that tickle you, you know.
Yeah,
hmm
for sure.
So,
How
hey,
you doing? How's it
I'm
going?
doing really
How's your
good.
week? Tell me everything.
Hey, it was an amazing week, and we've got a great question lined up for you today from a mutual friend and avid listener. And so I'm
Alright.
really excited about that because I think we can give some helpful tips. Our friend called me up and kind of listened to what was going on and gave a suggestion, something to try out, and I hope that it's working out well. But I thought it would be good for us to share on the show some techniques that could potentially help people who are experiencing something similar.
Alright.
Mm. Ooh, excuse me. So yeah, without further ado, let me get into it. Like I said, this is a mutual friend who we know and have respect for and um, want to be of service to, and he's having some challenges, like we all have challenges sometimes, where stress, life, the world where bears down on us, and uh, we find it hard to not only get restful sleep, but sometimes in the dream world, we have nightmares or we have experiences, or as we're trying to process things, we can ourselves up out of sleep. And he had been experiencing some tachycardia, some cardiac stuff, some mild panic, and would have to kind of get up, walk around, just kind of sit there, take some deep breaths, try, everything's okay. Let me try to get back to sleep. And eventually he would, but it's kind of scary because it's been happening often. Of course, you go and rule out any serious organic issue, which there isn't.
Mhm.
And just trying to get on top of it. And we know and love sleep, of course. It's so imperative. It's one of the number one thing that we talk about, how imperative sleep is, and how you need that restfulness for your body and for your brain. And during the course of your sleep cycle, you are processing shit that's happening today. And if you have a lot of stress, a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of things coming at you, it could be challenging to deal with just one of those things because you're trying to deal with all 17 of them at once. And that could cause problems. That could cause nightmares. That could kick you out of REM sleep and maybe even lead to some, heart racing, panic attack type symptoms. So, anyway, how do we deal with that?
Mm. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, life can get very stressful on many fronts, financial, professional, just the world, we look at the news any day
Mm,
these days, and it's anxiety producing about things that are happening around the world. So, how do we? How do we manage? How do we cope? How do we persevere? How do we manage? We've talked about on this show the definition of a happy life is not the absence of stress. That's
mhm.
ridiculous. We all have stress.
Yep.
To think that, to wish for a world where we don't have stress, it's not going to happen. So the definition of a happy life is how resilient we are to manage the stress that comes at us on a daily basis.
Yep.
And we've talked about, the top 5 things that we can do every day to become as resilient as possible. And it is good, consistent sleep hygiene, hydration, good nutrition, some exercise, and keeping to a daily schedule. And the
Mhm.
important part of keeping to a daily schedule is so your brain is not just wondering what's going to happen next. It has an idea of how the day is going to go, because without that, your brain is just going to wander in all kinds of directions, and sometimes in
Mhm.
directions you don't want it to go.
Yeah.
So that's that. Become as resilient as you can. Now, the sleep disturbances or the physical symptoms, during sleep, that's sleep is a really important part of our lives, right? We have 3 stages of sleep: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. Light sleep is restorative to your brain, deep sleep is restorative to your muscles, but REM sleep is restorative to your memories and how we organize information
Mhm.
in our heads. So, our brains, you may notice that sometimes you have a good night's sleep and you still wake up exhausted.
Yeah.
That can happen because your brain is running a marathon while you're sleeping. Your body's
Mhm.
sleeping, but your brain is not. And your brain is running, 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 trying to figure out a problem, trying to resolve something, trying to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense. So
Mhm.
it's running in hyperdrive all night when your body is sleeping, but your brain is not. So your brain's, in this case, I would say your brain's trying to work out some of those problems that you're experiencing on a daily
Mhm.
basis.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And if you're trying to tackle all of them at the same time, it's too much. It's too overwhelming. So here's the technique that I had shared with him, and I would encourage anybody out there to do the same. This works for a lot of different things, and I think we've kind of mentioned it before, but this is specifically driven towards you being a dream warrior, so to speak. And that is 30 minutes before you fall asleep. Generally, we get tired and we lay down and we get into that restful place. We go into hypnosis around the same times each night. And 30 minutes before you fall asleep, you are in a naturally occurring hypnotic state. So why not use the power of suggestion to your subconscious mind during that time? So what I had encouraged him to do was to write down the problem half hour before he falls asleep, right in that window, that he wants to isolate and work on specifically that night, and seeing the outcome or the experience or even the positive affirmation, writing it in a journal or a slip of paper or whatever, and to see if that could help you not only single out that problem, but work through it successfully. So then you can tackle the next one once that problem is resolved. If you need to do that for 3 nights in a row, same thing, do that until that's finally resolved. Then you have a good plan of action for it. Then work on the next one. And this is a nice hack for your brain because you don't need to work on all of those at the same time. You feel like you do because you feel like you've got the weight of the world, but let's work on one thing at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So let's try that. And I hope that that has been working, as that was a couple of days ago. Excuse me. So that was one of the things that I had shared. And that's an active taking participation in, you know, my dream state prior to. Here are some other things that you can try along the way. You finding time throughout your day to be mindful and to meditate or to just be in the moment and just chill instead of running around, trying to accomplish all of it. Just take some time for yourself to just be. That anxiety comes from our brains being in the future, worrying, doubting, fearing, and we need to get into the present moment because that combats that anxiety. And so that's a nice proactive approach that you can take is just finding times throughout the day, people find it better when they used to go on smoke breaks. Remember that? Because they would
Mhm.
take 15 minutes to themselves to just go out and be
Right.
and think or not think or whatever. So not to say go smoke but just take some 10 minutes to yourself 3 times a day and see how that helps.
Remember they used to call them fresh air breaks?
Yeah.
It was nothing but, not fresh air. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
So, some of these cardiac symptoms or other symptoms that you might be waking up to can be a form of a mild panic attack that you're having, your subconsciously or consciously, your
Hmm.
body is going through in the middle of the night. So treat it as a minor panic symptom. How do you rescue yourself out of a panic attack? There's lots of strategies out there. I've talked to people over the years, lots of people with panic. You and Tom, you and I have done it, and my first suggestion is Google how to get out of a panic attack because you're going to see 1,000 things that pop up.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And you've got to find what works for you. Different things work for different people. So people have found some very creative ways to get themselves out of a panic. We can talk about the general ones that we teach everybody. That whole mindfulness, that whole utilizing five senses, five things I can see, four things I can touch, three things I can hear, two things I can taste, and
Mhm.
one thing I can hear, whatever.
Yeah.
Utilizing your five senses. But the other thing that's a very common technique is like sour or hot candy. like those Warheads or Sour Patch Kids or something like that. If you when you put that in your mouth, your your mouth's like, "Ugh," at least
Yeah.
mine is. I don't like that stuff, but you know, and it pulls you out of your head. You know, panic is a negative feedback loop that's going on in your head. So, how do you pull yourself out of that? Right? Get out of your head. You know, have your brain focus on what is that awful taste in my mouth right now. That is very hot cinnamon that's in my mouth right now, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So maybe keep some candy next to this, you know, hot candy or sour candy next to your bed. Um, I worked with a woman who was having panic during board meetings. She was a new executive, and she learned to carry a Yeti full of ice cubes around. And when she felt it coming on, she would put an ice cube in her mouth and push it to the roof of her mouth. And that was enough of
Hmm.
a distraction from that negative feedback loop to, you know, kind of break that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
first thing you can do is treat it as minor panic, or not minor, but it's a panic attack of sorts, and work on breaking it out then.
Hmm.
Now, that's how to resolve it in the moment. You know, the long-term goal is to keep it from happening at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, we certainly work on strategies to keep it from happening at all, but, you know, to lessen the distress that you're experiencing when these things are happening, try to break that as quick as you can.
Because think about your body trying to maintain balance or homeostasis. You put an ice cube in your mouth and that's cold, and your body experiences that. The feedback loop is we've got to do something about that. So then it redirects the attention and
Hmm.
the energy to dealing with that thing, something
Hmm.
that's sour, something that's spicy. Something you eat that's spicy, that triggers a pain response in the body, and the body's got to counteract that with norepinephrine or, So like then the body's focus is on that.
Hmm. The
So
other thing that we talk about, and I teach people, it's a similar but somewhat of a different problem, is people can't go to sleep because their mind's racing. They're going from thing to thing to thing, and they can't, you
yeah.
know, they can't control or they're having a hard time controlling their thoughts, you know, because their minds are just racing. And we talk about we play the next I'm going to think about game. And what that
Yeah.
means is, so we give the analogy, you got a horse. You open the barn door, you let the horse out into the pasture. The horse is running around doing whatever the horse wants. It's eating this bush, it's eating that hay, it's peeing over here, it's standing next to the tree, it's doing whatever it wants. Well, that's
Yeah.
your brain running around doing whatever it wants.
Yeah.
So instead of just opening the barn door, put a horse or put a lead on that horse, right? And you know, the analogy is the horse is your brain here, right? Okay.
Hmm.
So you put a lead on your brain and you open the barn door and you lead the brain, lead the horse around the pasture to what you want it to do. So you
Yeah.
put the next I'm going to think about. Next, I'm going to think about what I'm going to make that for barbecue this weekend. Next, I'm going to think about the conversation I need to have with my friend about the trip coming up. Next, I'm going to
Yeah.
think about that book I'm reading. Next, I'm going to think about, and you can't keep that up forever. It's exhausting. And don't do it when you're not do it when you're having struggling. Practice this when things are good,
Mhm.
for 5 minutes at a time, so that it's not a foreign concept to your brain when you have to introduce that when your brain is running around the pasture peeing everywhere.
Mhm. You remember counting sheep? Try counting sheep. And of course, that's so trivialized, but this is the same thing. And the,
Mhm.
the sentiment and the concept is you taking control and redirecting your brain to where you want it to go instead of it just wandering around aimlessly like a Ronin that has lost favor with its master, what samurai that's lost favor becomes a Ronin. Your brain is your samurai, so put it to use. It'll
Mhm.
work for you. You got to give it something to do if your brain can't tend to turn off. Um, get up, go in another room, and sit up and read War and Peace or Anna Karenina or something, and
Mhm.
like maybe at some point you'll get sick of that and be like, oh, I just gotta go to sleep, man. And I love how
Mhm.
you've always said, hey, you know what? No matter what, I'm just gonna lie here. Whatever my brain's doing, like instead of just redirecting it, I'm just gonna lie here in bed. I'm gonna force myself to just lie here in bed, and then eventually my body will just turn off and fall asleep.
You Yeah, I've been very open. I had really bad insomnia parts of my life, and back in the day, I slept 4 hours a night, and I thought that's all I needed. I was invincible. You know, I'm not built. I'm built different. I don't need sleep. 4 hours, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that caught up with me, big
Yeah.
time. Cardiac issues, you know, whatever, all kinds of crap. And I had to learn how to sleep. And my first thing was is I had to lay in bed for 8 hours, no phones, no books, no nothing, for 8 hours a night, whether I slept or not. I just had to lay there, and it
Mhm.
was awful. And when I got started, but a few days into it, my brain's like, "Well, crap! If we're gonna lay here anyway,
I guess we'll
might as
sleep.
well. I might as well sleep."
Yeah.
And I mean, 8, 9 nights out of 10, I sleep fine. I sleep 8 hours. I have no issues. I still struggle sometimes
Hmm.
falling asleep or waking up and staying asleep, but I don't get upset with it anymore. It doesn't piss me off. I have 8 hours to lay in a bed. I have a very comfortable bed. I have a very comfortable pillow, and I'm gonna lay here, and I'm not gonna be mad about it. If I just get to lay here for 8 hours, that's great. I have no
Hmm.
problem with that.
Yeah.
You got to take the emotion out of it. You know, instead of being pissed off that I can't sleep, um, you know, and this is contrary to a lot of people's how they manage it. You know, they say if you're not sleeping for 15 minutes, get up and do something.
Hmm.
That's not how I do it. I just lay in bed, but I'm not angry about it. I have the privilege of laying here in a nice, comfortable bed for 8 hours, whether I'm sleeping or not. So that's how I
Hmm.
do
Look, we talk about in one of those five things the daily schedule.
it. Hmm.
And I want to remind listeners of the daily schedule and how important it is with regards to sleep and sleep hygiene, the daily schedule. If you organize your day, okay, my day, I wake up at this time. I eat at these times. I usually go to the bathroom at these times. I work during these hours, and maybe you can break up your day as I do this specific kind of work these hours. You know, maybe I'm more cognitively um, inclined to do those really intelligent, intellectually taxing tasks in the morning. So that's when I do those things. And then at night, I do the more physical things because my brain and, it's overloaded. So I can, you know, um, clean, the dishes or do the laundry or something that anyway, if you structure your day, you get used to that because it becomes a habit. And if you say, okay, I turn everything off at this hour because I need to go to sleep, and I shut everything down, then eventually that will become a habit and you'll just
Mhm.
do that. See, if we're staying up late watching shows, about murder or, like or intense action and we're on our phones scrolling, looking at Instagram or whatnot, we're checking emails, then we turn the phone off and try to go to sleep. Our brains are so stimulated. Everything's just so overwhelmed that we can't necessarily get into that restful sleep. But like we talk about the sleep hygiene, you set up your routine as part of your daily schedule. These are the things I do. Even if it doesn't work that day, eventually you will fall into the habit
Hmm. Hmm.
and you look
And
forward to it.
for sure. And you know, just to go back a little bit, you know, if you're waking up with some tachycardia, you know, meaning your heart's beating more than 100 beats per minute. Um, if you're waking up that way, it is probably some panic. You know, if you've been medically cleared and it's not a cardiac issue, you've been medically cleared, you know, that's a form of panic. Panic will raise your heart rate for sure. So don't freak out. Don't give it energy. You know, I always talk about whatever you feed will grow, right? So if you're laying there freaking out, oh my God, my heart's racing and what's going to go on? And oh my God, am I having a heart attack and am I going to die? You're
Right.
feeding it,
You're
right?
feeding them.
So when you wake up and you notice that your heart's racing, just say, wow, okay, so we're going to bring that down. Let's talk
Right.
about some deep breaths. And, you know, when I do mindfulness, is that big blanket term for just being present, right? And people do it in many different ways. They do yoga, they do meditation, they do guided imagery, whatever you do for mindfulness. That's great. Um, but don't fight the thoughts that come into your head because it's really hard to clear a head full of thoughts and not have things pop in. And
Hmm.
if you fight them, they have energy, so don't fight them. And what I do is when I am in mindfulness mode, um, and I clear in my head full of thoughts, and thoughts appear in my head, I don't fight them and push them out and try to think of something else or you know whatever. I picture them in a balloon, and I
Hmm.
always picture yellow balloons. I don't know why. but they're always, I put them in a yellow balloon and I push them slowly from right to left, from my right ear to my left ear, and push them right out of my head.
Hmm.
And that way it's soothing, it's calming, and I don't give it energy.
Yeah. But you're not trying to avoid the thoughts. They're there.
They're there. I just push them
Yeah.
out. I
Don't
put
think
them
about a
all in
pink
and
elephant.
push them out. Mhm,
Suddenly that's all you can think about. So, okay, do something with it. Put your
mhm.
samurai, lead your horse in the direction you want it to go. Yeah. Man, good stuff. I have a technique. I think I shared it with them too. Something that can help just in the moment. It's helped me whenever I felt my heart racing from panic or just from worry or whatever. Go find your couch, and if you have space on the floor, like if you don't have a coffee table or something in the way, or if you need to do it on a chair, but lie down on the floor, with your butt against the couch or the chair, with your legs up at a 90-degree angle on the cushions of the couch or the chair. And while you're lying on the ground, if you need a little pillow, that could be helpful too, or roll up a towel and put it under the back of your neck. And just lie there and breathe and feel your ribs expanding, feel your stomach expanding, feel your sides moving, and just focus on your breathing. And if those thoughts are there, just allow them to be there, but have your legs up higher than the heart, and just kind of lie there for a little bit. Just try that out.
Not only ice on the roof of your mouth, but cold water on the inside of your wrist,
Yeah.
like under your watch band area,
Mhm.
can really help with anxiety.
Shock to the system.
When
What is
I
that?
used to do a lot of public speaking, and it never really bothered me. I mean, when you got started, it was a little more nerve-wracking, but you always have that 2 minutes before you start to speak, that whole crap. I hope I don't,
Yeah.
have a
Mhm.
booger on my face kind of stuff. And before I started speaking, I would always go in the restroom and some cold water on the inside of my wrist. And
Mhm.
it was just enough to kind of take that edge off and let's go. Here we go.
Right. Hoping that that first joke hits.
Yeah. Yeah. You crack that first joke and it's like crickets. You're like, okay, here we
Oh boy. Okay.
go. All
Yeah.
right. I'll be right back. I gotta run to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. You open
Oh,
up your Yeti and you're pulling ice cubes out of it and.
all right.
So I hope that
Um,
helps. I mean, those are just some of the techniques. But like you said, hey, just look it up, Google it, Chat GPT it, just see what comes up and what resonates with you. And maybe it's a trial and error. But
mm,
I'm grateful that there's nothing seriously wrong or organically wrong regarding the issue. And I bet it's probably no longer an issue anymore. And you through strength and resilience and utilizing your resources, have figured out a plan of attack or maybe even rectified all of those stressors that you're under right now. So thank you for that question.
yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Chat GPT. I got to bring up there was an article that came out that said, please stop using please and thank you when you use Chat GPT because it just clogs up the system, right? It's unnecessary. It's not a human being. It's a waste of time, energy, and resources. And I thought about that, and I'm like, nah, I'm using please and thank you when I use Chat GPT because when the AI overlords take over, I want them to know that I'm a nice guy.
Exactly. Oh, you're Brett? Oh, yeah, no.
Oh yeah,
You
you
always
always
said
like
please and
such
thank you. Yeah.
yeah. So kill me
You're okay.
last.
You're okay. Yeah. You'll be on this side of the containment area.
Yeah. We should talk about AI's role in mental health.
Hmm.
Um,
That
because
would
it's
be
some
a great
real
show.
interesting, fascinating stuff that's happening in the world right now.
Because things are moving and shaking, and every day there's something new. And yeah, so all right, let's do a show about that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not all bad, but it's not all
It's
great.
not all bad. And it's actually there's some funny stories that came out of that. So real quick, just as a teaser, when they did the first kind of AI counselor kind of role model, they used open source, which means they opened up AI to the entire internet. And
Hmm.
you can
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
some of the advice that AI was dishing out based on the information they could pull from the entire internet, and
Right.
it failed miserably. So then they have to use closed source. So they create a smaller version of the internet and
Right.
what they want it to. Just too funny stuff.
Yeah.
But
Feeling anxious? Try edging.
yeah.
Yeah. What? Where
Oh
did this come from?
uh,
Oh,
uh,
jeez. So anyway, love, health,
on that
respect, all
note,
you guys.
hey, there's another thing our buddy can try,
You're right. Yeah. Give that a
Feeling
shot.
anxious, hey, that's what the internet says, so it's got to be
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yourself or get a partner.
All right. No,
Yeah.
that's funny stuff. Oh man, it's always good to see
Hey, wake up. Hey,
you. We better
always.
hit that stop button.
All right. Enough. Enough.
Because you know us, we're gonna carry this on for like a half hour.
Yeah, we
If you
have.
let us, we will.
Uh-huh. History reveals that we have the
Yeah,
tendency to keep going into much deeper and darker
yeah.
places, more risque places. So thank you
Yeah.
as always.
Oh, good to see you, Tom.